Okay, there we are. Good. Thank you, Greg. Okay, I would like to open the Board of Selectmen meeting for Thursday, September 15th at 6:30. Roll call vote of members in attendance. Ann Harrison?
Yes.
Brian Solacey?
Yes.
Kathy Bellata?
Yes.
John Round?
Yes.
And Becky Jakes. Also, we're being recorded by 1623 Studios. First on our agenda, on the public tree hearing. Tom, do you want us to go down tree by tree? Would that be easier?
Yeah, would you like me to give my opinion on the overall condition and health of each one in the order that I have them? Or do you want, it doesn't matter, it's up to you. We normally do it tree by tree.
I think we should do tree by tree.
Yeah, that's whatever ways it is.
Okay, great. We'll start with the 40-inch pine tree, Jersey Lane, and the health of that tree.
I looked at the tree. We looked at this tree a few years ago, and we said we'd bring it up again. And it does have. It may have been hit by lightning at one time. We're not sure. It's the tallest one, and it's at the top of it stands out in the road. But it has what we call a twist.
Okay.
Flexing in the main trunk. It goes for about 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And the top of the tree is alive. It's basically a mass tree with that top that sticks up, surrounded by other pines. And other than that issue, it's alive, but it does, I would consider it a hazard.
Excuse me, Tom.
No,
Is that okay? I just want to make sure everybody's computers are muted. And okay, cell phones are muted. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. All right, Tom. So it is.
Yeah, it's hazardous in its condition, even though it is alive.
Okay.
But it's in a situation where the other trees, when it's gone, will do well around it.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm pretty reluctant to remove any trees because we have so many struggling right now.
Exactly.
But if the trees around it would be healthier with it being gone, something to consider. Why don't we go around to the board members? Anne, would you like to
No
start?
comment.
Okay. Brian?
Just as far as the two neighbors' request, it's how much of a hazard would you consider?
Well, I wouldn't feel comfortable
Okay.
adjacent to it. So
That's good enough for me.
it doesn't stand out by itself. It's part of a grove. The only aesthetic value to it is if you're coming along 127 and you look over into that corner, you do see a rounding top of this tree. But like I said, the others around it,
Would you want to live next to it?
Yeah.
Would you want to live there?
I don't think anybody would.
Kathy? John?
Oh, very tall tree. I took a look at it.
120
very-
feet.
You can see it from 127. That's a long,
Boy Scout way of
yeah.
determining the height of it.
Okay, anyone attending the meeting tonight? Would anybody like to comment? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody wishing to comment.
Should go to the top if they do.
Okay, so they would go to the
Yeah,
top.
they would go to the top. Yeah.
All right. Do we want, why don't we just go down all the trees, and if we have a hold on some, we can do that, or do you all want to go ahead and vote one by one?
I have no preference.
Hmm?
I have no preference.
No.
All right, let's go ahead and do one by one then. Okay, may I have a motion to remove the 40-inch pine at 12 Jersey Lane?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by John Round, seconded by Brian Solacey. Roll call vote. Ann Harrison.
Abstain.
Brian Solacey.
Yes.
Kathy Bellata.
Yes.
John Round.
Yes,
Becky Jake says no. So we have 3 ayes from John, Kathy, and Brian. Becky Jake says no, and Harrison abstained. It will be removed. Okay. Next tree, 40-inch Zelkova at 83 Pleasant Street. And the problem is the power lines with that one, Tom?
No, it's, it sits back a few feet onto the owner's lot. It's a healthy tree with the exception of something that's common with this cultivar, Asiatic type elm. It has many included leaders that are splitting apart, pockets of decay in them. And other than that, it's healthy. In my opinion, there's things that can be done to save this tree.
Okay. Yeah, it was quite a nice looking tree. Any comments, Ann?
I think you said 40-inch and it's a 14-inch.
14-inch, I'm sorry, thank you. Okay, Brian,
No. Nothing.
Kathy,
No comment.
John,
yeah, but, when you say splitting apart, or at least those are the words in the copy, and those are your words?
Yes.
And so that's a dangerous situation?
It has moderate issues that smaller branches, maybe in this, could reach his house. But it could be braced, thinned, braced, cabled. There are a number of procedures
Yeah,
that could be done. Maybe for the expenditure, I can give you approximate expenditure if you're interested in that. But where it has such, you know, it sort of is nice there. Myself, I always say this, it's my old cliche, where I were living there, I would keep the tree. Or had I bought the house and I saw it in that condition, of course, I know what could be done. And it's a common issue with this species of tree. If they're not correctly pruned when they're young and growing and develop a nice central scaffold with nice branching, that they do this. We have several others in town which we did prune that are doing quite well by doing that, but it's too late now to correct those issues that have developed because there are pockets of decay in around all of them. But it can be cabled, can be braced, and kept going. Well, maybe I would say maybe expenditure approximately $500. I'll throw a figure out there.
okay, no. I mean, it's a very graceful tree. It's not a giant, it's not a big tree,
No.
but it's very well shaped.
Nice,
Mhm.
very nice shape.
Yeah. Okay.
and how it could be extended by an idea of how long? Indefinitely?
10 anyway, 10 years.
Um,
Including
This is a
embracing.
question. You say $500, probably, how much would it take to take it down? Cost to take it down?
It's quick for them, a couple $100.
Okay, so we're talking the
Couple
difference between,
$100.
I'm
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about the cost.
Probably 15 minutes for.
Okay,
the
the
people
cost
who use,
of, doesn't really truly outweigh the, okay, I'm not, that's answered my question.
Okay, is there anybody attending via Zoom who would like to speak
So
on
we
this?
have Jeff Fossey, who's the property owner.
Okay, all right, okay, all right, Jeff, can you raise your hand? I don't see him on here.
Uh,
All right, let's see.
I am on here. I don't know if it's okay to
There you
unmute.
are. Yep,
Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to look at the tree and for
state your
taking the
name
time
and
to-
address, I'm sorry, please, thank you, Jeff. If you,
83 Pleasant Street.
thank you.
I'm the property owner of the tree in hand. You know, I'm not sure if it's so much a concern about the branches falling into the house as it is the branches falling into the driveway. The tree is situated directly next to our driveway. It's one of 2 town trees, and in the recent prunings that came through on Pleasant Street, this one wasn't touched, despite the fact that it's pretty unruly with power lines going through it and its proximity to our driveway. Yeah, I guess I can't really argue the health of the tree, although I do see it split on both sides. And then, ultimately, our preference would be to get rid of it. I've since learned I can't do that without town permission. But with 2 trees, one of which is touching our home, and then this one, my preference would be to remove the tree and provide greater light for our home, of which we get almost none from the Pleasant Street side because of these 2 town trees. And we're trying to respect that process and leave the larger one. I believe that's a sycamore, and create some space and light for our home, as well as some safety in our driveway by removing this one. But if it's only a matter of health, then I defer to the experts.
Thank you. My concern in driving around and looking at not only trees on this tree hearing, but other trees around the town, it's a tough year for trees. All vegetation and anything that depends upon that. And a healthy tree, I just don't see the sense in removing it. I can understand Jeff's desires where it comes to his home, and the not wanting the trees dropping on the driveway, the branches, etc. But if we could have this pruned in a way that it would not be shedding branches as much on their driveway or interfering with the power line. I did see that the power lines were somewhat enmeshed, and either by pruning or moving the power lines, rather than just taking a healthy tree down, would be my preference. What do you think about? You said you think there are things definitely that can be done to help.
I think we can do some things, and then if the gentleman is not happy, it doesn't mean, it's etched in stone that you can't come back.
Right.
I think the community in general, I mean, I'm really only the person to help and judge, but I do have a desire to save as many trees and that's my personal feeling. But yeah, I would think it would be money well spent trying to save the tree for a few $100, $200, $300, $400, and we can certainly give the lines clear through there, and put maybe one cable to brace those 2, so they're self-supporting sort of. If you'd be willing to try that, it's an option. That's all I suggest.
And if he's not happy, he can always come back.
Yeah, within the year, and even next year, sure.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
Just one, if we do start removing trees just because of their proximity to the power lines, we're going to be having a tree meeting every week.
Right.
If it's a healthy tree and it can be saved for a few $100s, I would fully support that.
And I might comment, these are the power lines to the house, not the power lines down the street, which are on the other side of the
The
street.
service.
Yeah, it's a service, house service.
Right.
So it's just, those are the only lines that are really affected.
Right. Okay,
Am I permitted to speak one more time? I'm trying to chat.
sure.
Jeff Fossey, 83 Pleasant Street. With all due respect, I have a 1/3 of an acre property and 2 town trees, and I don't know how unique that is, but I'm not proposing to remove both trees. I'm proposing to remove a tree to bring more light into our house, to protect our driveway, to protect our kids in the front yard. I fully respect the need to preserve trees in the neighborhood, but also, as our neighbors have cut them down without permission, there's no recourse. And so I'm trying to do the right thing, and I'm going to be negatively affected by going through permission Again, we have a different tree on our property. It is touching our roof. They trimmed it last year, but only trimmed the street side, didn't trim the house side. Our house is rotting, the roof is molding. We are constantly fighting back mold all over the place because there is no direct sunlight on our home. We are putting a second town tree over the needs of this structure.
Jeff,
We do not have a large property,
Jeff,
and it
There
is completely covered in shade because of these two town trees.
and I
trimming-
do understand, my house is exactly the same way. Many, many houses in this town are exactly the same way. And I can sympathize with you because, again, my house is the same way. And I did just replace my roof. So I
I'm not-
feel that
I'm not-
pain.
It doesn't, to me, that speaks nothing to policy. My house is negatively affected from town trees. Whether that's 3 other people or 300 people, it is rotting my house to not have any direct sunlight on that tree. I have 2 large town trees in the front of our yard. I don't see the need to keep them both. As you go up and down Pleasant Street, many people have removed those trees, and I'm gonna guess they didn't go through the town hearing, but more to the point, I'm not getting any light on my home on the street side of the house. I don't know how that is.
Children play in the front yard, you said?
Yeah,
You have a nice backyard.
I'm worried about the rotting wood, the rotting trim,
Okay,
the
so
rotting
that's a
roof.
different-
I'm not suggesting that I need to play in that yard or garden in that yard.
Okay, you know what, Jeff, I'm really sorry. I understand what you're saying. If we start taking down every tree that's in front of a house, we're going to have no trees in the town. Part of our job is to look after the health of the trees, which is one of the things that attracts people to our town. So we not only have to look at individuals, we have to look at the whole as well.
I think it's hyperbolic to suggest we'll have no trees. I also think
That
it's
was, you're
talking
right.
about the aesthetics of the town doesn't want to see a rotting home. And as a teacher and a nurse, we may struggle to keep up with property prices and construction in this town. And so I think that you're putting the priorities way off. If you want the aesthetics of this town to think differently, then a rotting home is not going to benefit anybody. But I understand that you have a duty to the trees. Homeowners last.
Can you lower your hand, please, if you're done, Jeff? Thank you. Ann Harrison,
I have nothing to say.
Brian,
I'm all set, thank you.
Kathy, John,
I'm set.
may I have a motion, please?
Could I make one comment? I'd be willing to come over and show him. I'm very good at pruning the existing tree, that both of them, and maybe talk to his neighbors so he could, me visualizing the street, I think probably the front of it looks south. And the sun, we could get considerably more sun in there by pruning and air circulation around the house to rectify. I've done it many, many times.
You know, that's a really good idea. Tom, thank
Maybe the southwest side, it seems to me there's a lot of trees between the 2 houses. I can't visualize it right now, but if you just let me come over and talk to him, see if I can help him out. And if it continues to be, we can always
Right.
bring it up again.
Did you want to, yes, I'm looking at it right here if you want to.
Sure.
You can come look at this. So this is the property, this is the tree he's talking about.
Yeah, I think we can get an awful if the town pruning. Normally, we don't prune away from the trees all around. We just try to maintain the streets and
Right.
safety over the sidewalk, but we will go into the back, take more off that other tree and
So that you can get more light on.
more light, more air circulation. And let me look at what's his abutter has for trees that would be in that southwest quadrant. And maybe we
That's
can
that's
get
good. And that way you,
improve his situation. For the time being, we see how things go, just for the sake of trying to save the tree and live with the trees if we can.
thank you, Tom. Jeff, would you be amenable to having Tom come over, go over the pruning with you? See if they can remove, open it up over the roof, give you more light, and as Tom said, circulation around your house. hopefully to, help mitigate some of the dampness issues. And DPW can help coordinate, it says as well, with Tom, as they often do. And if you're not happy, we can revisit next year. Are you amenable to that?
Of course, I don't know what timeline Tom can offer, but that'd be wonderful. Sooner is better.
At his convenience, basically, I'm free all tomorrow afternoon. I can give him, or if you get a phone number, I'll give him a call afternoon tomorrow.
Okay, that would be wonderful. Jeff, if you would, who do we email his phone number to, Greg, so that Tom can have it?
Well, if he wants to email it, or just put, yeah, he can email it to me right now.
He just gives it to me verbally right there.
And
He
it's
probably doesn't want
right
to do
there.
that.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down, Jeff, and I will give it to Tom at the close of this meeting. Okay? And, get that taken care of for you. How does that sound?
That sounds like a reasonable compromise.
That's what we want.
And that's what we hope for, so, sorry if it's not fully down at this point, but we can, again, if it doesn't work, we can revisit again. Okay, motion on the 14-inch Zelkova on 83 Pleasant Street. Anybody want to make a motion either way?
Motion either way, or is that something that's put on hold, or?
No, we go
Well, I
for,
think you should,
make the motion.
you should vote not to.
Okay, all right, so I'll make a motion not to remove the Zelkova 14-inch tree at this time.
Second.
Okay, moved by John Round, seconded by Brian Solacey. Roll call vote. Ann Harrison,
Abstain.
okay, Brian Solacey,
Food. To save it. To save the tree.
yeah, Kathy Bellata,
Yes.
John Round,
Yes,
and Becky Jake says yes, for not removing, and one abstention, Ann Harrison. Okay, next we have the 40-inch Sugar Maple 23 Tappan Street. Okay, this is an interesting tree. It's gorgeous from one side and hollow from the other.
Yeah, as you can see, looking at the tree from the street is the beautiful sugar maple tree, big, old, mature sugar maple tree. But when you walk around and you look at the south side that faces the house, I suspect a big limb or leader tore out of that many, many years ago. And you have a huge cavity that goes to the center of the tree. I actually took a rod that I have and I can feel it. And, other than that, that's the situation. That's what has the two homeowners nervous about the tree, should anything happen to it. We could lighten it a little bit by removing some large leaders out of it and prolong it a little, but it's a situation that's only going to further deteriorate as it goes on. And we don't know the extensive damage of carpenter ants. There's a lot of things you can't tell visually, all this moderate physical probing of the cavity, but I hate to see it. It's just a shame that this is part of the situation when an injury occurs to a tree, it should be attended to immediately.
Right.
So that's what happened. It could have been constructed. I believe there was a backhoe up there that could have scuffed it many years ago, swung whatever, and it doesn't take long for it to do that.
Okay, well, that was a shame. Because it still looks very nice from one side.
Yeah.
Okay, and so your recommendation would be to remove it?
Are they here? Do they, those people, I mean, I talked to one of them, I know they
Let's see.
the two,
I'm trying to bring that house up right now.
Yes, they wrote a letter saying that you had visited them
yeah.
back in the spring.
talked to them about it.
And I went,
And
I don't know, is anybody here from Tappan Street? On Zoom?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
we-
would you please, state your name and address?
Peter Gamage, 23 Tappan.
Thank you. And you requested the tree to be removed?
Yes,
Okay. So Tom, you are recommending this tree be removed?
I think it's a hazard, a definite hazard to both the butters and also the elderly lady, Mary Jane Brown, across the street.
She was, yes,
That's the way it would go, that way. Or could go either side, you don't know really.
okay. Ann Harrison, any comments? Brian?
No.
Kathy? John?
Only that, I mean, I'm looking at it here. It's a good looking canopy. The only problem is it's half a canopy.
Right,
And when you first look at it, you say, hey, that's fine. And then you realize that there are other trees that are really hiding the
yeah,
hillside. And if they were to disappear, you've got half a tree here. So I agree that it's, and I did see the big hole and
Yeah,
gaping spot on the uphill side, so it's a problem.
okay. May I have a motion either way? From somebody?
I move to remove the 40-inch sugar maple at 23 Tappan Street.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, moved by Kathy Bellata, seconded by John Round. Roll call vote. Ann Harrison,
Yes.
Brian Solacey,
Yes,
Kathy Bellata,
Yes.
John Round,
yes,
and Becky Jakes sadly says yes. So the tree at 23 Tappan Street will be removed. Okay, moving,
thank you very much to the board, even though it's a shame.
it's pretty sad looking on your house side, Peter. So I
Indeed,
would want that coming down.
indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
20-inch ash on 40 Pleasant. Okay, and that one,
yeah, this is requested by the two neighbors. I looked at it first. It's been sort of hacked and butchered by people underneath the primary lines, clean, you know, the utilities people. What is there looks quite healthy until once again, you walk around and you look at the backside of the tree and it has a major cavity there. The tree will probably linger like that, slow grow for a while and slowly go into decline, I feel. One thing which is a real concern to us is we know now we have emerald ash borer in town. And I sort of attribute a lot of the dieback in the crowns of our ash trees to that. Plus, we'll know when we take them down by examining underneath the bark, the galleries that's there. Ben Staples has told me, he's a contemporary of mine and we mutually respect each other, that the best thing to do is to try, and like we're going to do some of these, we're quite certain the further ashes, one we may try to save, but this tree very quickly will start to show the signs of infancy. It's almost impossible to eliminate it in the community, as I'm sure you're aware of with the situation with the longhorn beetle. This is another pest similar to that, but once it gets in, it attacks one species. And I'm quite certain that's what's causing the decline of all our ash trees in town.
okay,
So I frankly think the tree should go. These people are amiable to having another tree planted there, small flowering tree, maybe crabapple, dogwood tree. So I have discussed it with both property owners.
Is that something they would want to do, or are we?
Friends of the Trees, I think, would be very happy to plant a tree here.
Okay. That would be good. That'd be good.
I mean, it's green, it does furnish canopy, but I think it's gonna go into decline very quickly.
It's beautiful. Okay, Ann, any questions? No. Brian?
You say decline, well, how long? Well, a year,
Well,
2 years?
If we find a borer here, it's inevitable that it's gonna get it within a few years, within 2 years.
In the meantime, it looks pretty healthy.
I tried to convince them to try to visualize that light pole and that guy wire with this tree gone, you know,
Mhm.
aesthetically, to me. My personal opinion, if I lived here, I would try to keep it going a little, but I understand their concern. They're not concerned with.
So I mean, they could come back in a year.
It might linger.
No, but I'm saying as far as you enjoy the tree for a year or two and then come back, and it's certainly in decline.
Which I just evaluate its general health right now. The foliage on that side does have a serious issue with that large cavity on the backside.
So does it currently present a hazard?
You know, that's a tough call whether it's a hazard, you know. That's why when these things happen, they're considered acts of God by the liability people, insurance companies, this and that. When trees come down, you never know when they come, or why they can come down, but it does have that issue. And then where it's so far out of balance with all the weight that way,
Mhm.
on the side away from where the cavity is, myself. Although I would, if I were there, keep it, I would, in this case, where those people have this concern and they made us work, I would sort of side with removal on this one.
Okay,
The one across the street, not at all.
yeah, all right. John, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just have a question. So the wires here kind of go all through the tree. I mean, this is very much involved with utilities. The utility company comes through, they don't talk to you. They just do what they do?
What they do is they notify us.
Oh, they do. Very
They tell
nice.
us we're gonna be
Well, I
working on
appreciate
this
that.
street.
That's a change.
Do you have any concerns, this and that? And I know what their standards are pretty much. And they have a certified arborist that works with them, but they have safety standards, and that's why this type of pruning gets done with trees. They'll take out the whole center of a tree. So that the problem there is those are primary, you know, heavy duty wires there. They're not like services or even our normal. We don't have those type of electric lines, but regular electric lines in town. But once they put that line down that street about 10 years ago, I think, or 15, maybe time goes by, they really started doing a number to get that required. I think it's 10 feet wide, which has to be away from that particular type of wire.
Well, they haven't got to this tree yet.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to pollard. There are certain things that they're not supposed to do.
They can't generally top, they're supposed to create a window through the tree, but that's counts for the shape of this, and having the pole. It almost coincides with the pole, the trunk and the pole right there.
Yeah.
The pole went in
Mhm.
after the tree was long established there.
Right,
It would have been nicer if they could have put the pole a little further away and saved the tree, but they put them exactly the same distance, sometimes without consideration for the tree.
Mhm. Okay, any further questions?
You have a couple of hands up, Peter Menazar
Okay.
and looks like Sandy Returner is raising her hand.
Hi, everybody. This is Peter Manassi in 5 Woodhome Road. Just generally speaking, every meaningful tree canopy that we can save right now with weather extremes is important for all of us. So let me just put that out. This particular tree, which is quite interesting, and I understand, and I had a chance to look at it, and I understand Tom's points. you couldn't add another leaf to the tree. This tree is as leafed out as any tree could possibly be. It is as healthy as any ash in this town. And in cases like this, at the very least, why wouldn't we wait at least until next year to see how it leaves out again, to see if the emerald ash borer beetle has in fact attacked this particular tree? But I defy anybody to show me a limb on that tree where you could put another leaf. And as far as pruning is concerned, let's challenge our arborists who would be doing the pruning, judicious pruning of that cable, to do it with some artistry for once, and to not leave it in the hands of National Grid, and where they have come through town. Not only have they, in many cases, just mangled trees, but they then leave they leave the tree, the branch they've cut down, right in place. And I can tell you that that's happened in Pine Street, and I've called the town about that in the past. So not only, and also they have 5 or 6 other stops to make that day. So how much time do they have to devote to really prune that tree in a very thoughtful way? So let's give this tree a chance into the spring. Let's do some pruning that's going to be done under Tom's supervision, with the idea that some artistry is involved for once. And let's preserve a canopy right now that is, I mean, it's as special as you could possibly want. That's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Peter. And you are with Friends of Trees, is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Would you go ahead and put your hand down now? I'm not able to do it. Oh, thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else?
Sandy has her hand up.
This is so odd.
Well, yeah, she didn't put her, she's just raising her hand. Sandy Bodmer Turner's.
Okay, Sandy Bodmer Turner, would you have something to say?
Yes, I have
Address, please.
I have 2 questions for Tom.
Sandy,
And-
would you state your address, please?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sandy Bodmer Turner, 89 School Street.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions for Tom and 1 sort of general comment. And the 2 questions are really to clarify if Tom feels that the tree is a hazard. That's 1 question. And the second question is if there's any concern about hazard or interference with the lines. I'm kind of seconding Peter's comment about, is there a way that a skillful pruning could really improve the situation significantly? So those are 2 questions. And I have 1 comment. I did go look at the tree as well as the sugar maple, and the wound on the ash seems to be totally different. The tree is not hollowed out. The wound has closed over, seems to be very firm. So if Tom would also comment about that, that would be very helpful.
Okay, so you're looking for, does it pose a hazard, and questioning about the wound?
Yes, and also would pruning help the whole situation per Peter's comment in terms of the situation with the electrical wires?
Thank you, Sandy.
First, with what Peter said, makes very good sense to me. I agree with basically what he said. With regard to the hazard, there isn't any great hazard there to either of the 2 properties. The largest portion would come down if it does over the street, but I don't feel, and as Peter did say, it has nice color, which is unusual. I attribute a lot to that. It's got a nice green lawn all around and gets plenty of water there. And I certainly feel there's no harm in letting it go and watch what it does. And what was your last thing about the scar?
Both the scar and the pruning.
Oh, pruning, yeah. The scar is not as extensive and penetrated into the heartwood of the tree. And the shape of it could be improved, a little pruning, yeah. We could balance it out a little bit, make it look a little bit better.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody? Right, I'm not seeing any. Okay, any more comments from the board? Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I think we ought to keep the tree for now. And see what happens in a couple of years, in particular with pruning, and I want you on top of the utility guys when they come through.
Mhm.
So I make a motion to keep the tree for now.
Second.
Okay, not removing. Motion made by John Round, seconded by Brian Solacey. Ann Harrison,
Yes.
Brian Solacey,
Yes.
Kathy Bellata,
Yes.
John Round.
Yes,
Becky Jake says yes, it's unanimous, so, there will be pruning on that one as well. Okay, so far we have pruning at, 83 Pleasant Street. I will get you his phone number, and, 40 Pleasant Street. Next up, we have 14-inch sugar maple at 5 Night Road, not confused with Night Circle. Tom?
Yeah, this is about 90% yet, but
Mhm.
that's all I can say. Why sugar maples are declining, we don't really know, but they are. Salt is one of the great suspects.
Really? No.
Extensive use of salt.
Mm. And there are quite a few that look like they need some.
Yeah.
love.
This is gonna be a challenging year
Yeah.
coming for the health of the trees, but yeah, very, very weak, and I can see the homeowner's concern why he requested.
Okay, Ann Harrison, comment?
No.
Brian Solacey?
No.
Kathy Bellata? John
No.
Round? Okay, may I have a motion to remove?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
second,
Moved by Ann Harrison, seconded by John Round. Roll call vote. Ann Harrison?
Yes.
Brian Solacey?
Yes.
Kathy Bellata?
Yes.
John Round?
yes.
And Becky Jake says yes, it's unanimous, godly. Okay, we move on to the 18-inch maple at 6 Windermere Park Extension. Okay,
Yes, I looked at it, it was a double leader at one time, one is gone.
mhm,
There's some decay in a pocket in what remains on the, where the piece tore out. And the homeowner was nervous about that portion of the tree coming down. He has since, after he requested this, I don't know if it was somebody on the Friends of the Trees called me, he has since had reservations about removing that portion where, saving canopy, which
mhm,
is a good idea. I understand why initially he did, but he's thinking in a positive way, in my opinion. If he's willing to assume that it could come down, and I recommend, I did not recommend, but I said to him, yes, it does. We don't really know, again, what's going on through the other side. I couldn't probe through to the hardwood in it, but Mr. Bennett has since, I hope he's listening in, maybe he will comment, but I would like to see that portion saved if he's comfortable with that.
okay. Let's see, I'm looking for. Don't see him on here. But if he is having
Reservations.
reservations, I think that we try to prune it, give it some attention and not remove it, would be my thought.
We could cut the end of it back and try to turn it. Because that end goes east, and that we could cut a piece off of it and try to lighten the stress that's on that cavity down there for him if he will see. But where I hope I spoke correctly for him, and I hope I got the
Well, that's
information.
what I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we should, since he's not here to
Put a
speak
hold
for
on it,
himself,
maybe
if we
just
hold
hold
that
the one
one.
tree. I think that's the only one that.
Yeah, all right, why don't we put a hold on that? because I'd like to hear from the homeowner.
Yeah, it came to me sort of third hand, and I tried to contact him, and he goes up to Maine occasionally, but I'll try to contact him again myself.
And if that's what his desire is, then just prune.
I mean, that
Right.
portion is nice and green and healthy, that portion, which is often the case with this type of situation.
Yeah, so his last email said that unfortunately he had a previous commitment tonight, so he's not able to come. But he said perhaps if it is feasible to trim, so there's not such a threat, then he's amenable to that.
Okay, then we can go ahead and make a motion not to remove, but to prune. If
Yes, I think so.
okay, if we do have that. All right, may I have a motion, please, not to remove the tree?
Go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Brian Solacey, seconded by Ann Harrison. Roll call vote. Ann Harrison.
Yes.
Brian Solacey.
Yes.
Kathy Bellata.
Yes.
John Rowe.
Yes.
Becky Jake says yes. We will not remove it at this point and prune it. Okay, thank you. Now we come to the two green ash trees on Beach Street, one in front of Callas, well, actually it was more in front of Stock Exchange, and then one in front of Mari's. And sadly, they look as if.
Move to remove.
Okay, remove both.
Moving right along.
Yeah, can I have a
thought he is,
second?
but-
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, moved by Ann Harrison, seconded by Kathy Bellata. Roll call vote. Ann,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Becky's yes, it's unanimous. The two trees will be removed. Are we replacing those with anything? Will we?
It's a tough situation there in that sidewalk. We can see how we can grind them out, you know,
I know.
it's a tough. They tend to reach something and then the buttress, the root trunk flare starts to buckle the sidewalk and spread out. If we get something that has a tendency to grow deep rather than that way, yeah,
Sort of taproot?
we can look at the situation.
Okay,
It would be
Very
nice
difficult
just
to
for
plant
shade.
sidewalks to
I know.
trees.
I know, it would,
Without enough, it's narrow there, it's difficult for the sidewalk plow to get by, but
mm,
be lovely to have trees. And fortunately, we did plant a lot of trees and doing pretty good, but that seems to be a place where they got repeatedly hit
Yeah.
by box trucks and on that's damage done to them. I'm sure. they
are
have
there any, trees that could be put into, above ground containers that, we could replace them with, or even try to protect them like they did at Crosby's with the metal surrounds?
Those trees all had those at one time. Yeah.
Did they all along there?
Yeah, it just got beat up badly and didn't really, they don't do as well on that side anyway, because when they're young trees, they get shaded all the time, where the trees on the other side of the street have always done much better. It's tough, but
Well, if there's something that we could be creative about, maybe Friends of Trees might have some suggestions. Sandy Bodmer Turner, go ahead and unmute yourself. What do you have to say?
Just that Friends would be happy to work with Tom and figure out what trees might work there, because it does make the downtown Main Street there lovely to have the shade and the arches over the street.
It does, and I'm sorry, would you just repeat your address?
Oh,
again?
I beg your pardon, Becky. It's Sandy Bodmer Turner, 89 School Street.
Just to make sure Debbie got that. Thank you, that's wonderful, Sandy. Okay, moving right along, we have an 18-inch ash at 120 Pine Street.
Peter has this.
Peter did, oh, I'm sorry, Peter, go ahead, name and address, please.
Peter Manassian, 5 Woodhome Road. It would be wonderful if we could keep the downtown with some arbor presence and losing these two. I wanted to ask Tom about in Boston, what one tree that seems to do well and doesn't in sidewalk situations between the street, the curb, that buffer where trees are growing, and then the sidewalk, is the honey locust. And it's a very beautiful, beautiful tree, and yet it's has this very delicate look. And I wondered, Tom, if you have any thoughts about that tree and how well that might do, given the space it would need.
May I make a suggestion? Just for getting through the tree hearing, could we potentially have this as a side conversation another time between friends and Tom? But I thank you, Peter. That's I think the more ideas, the better.
And to what Sandy said, meeting with Tom to discuss opportunities for the downtown area would be welcomed by Friends of Trees.
Wonderful, thank you. And if you would go ahead and put your hand down, thank you, because for some reason I can't figure that one out today. All right, we are at the Ash at 120 Pine Street. Come on.
Yeah, I assume we've all seen it. It's like about 80% gone right now, no chance of getting recovery there. And we suspect again, maybe.
Yeah, it looked dead-ish. So, all right, any comments from the board?
It's pretty barren.
It's, yeah, that would be another good spot to have a replacement. Okay, we have a motion
Move to remove.
Second.
moved by Ann Harrison, seconded by Brian Solacey. Roll call vote. Ann,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Becky says yes. It's unanimous to remove the ash at 120 Pine Street. Now we go to 41 Pleasant Street. All right, Tom.
Yeah, we pruned this tree probably 10 years ago, then a few years, 5 years. We've repeatedly taken some branches off this tree. Here again, I suspect what's going on is the Agpora. It's got some crown decline, maybe 20% in the crown at the most. I think the tree might linger for another year. We'll continue to watch it, it's my feeling, and if we see any large dead wood and it doesn't leaf out well in the spring, then we'll reconsider what should do. But I think where it does provide right now so much canopy, it could fight this off. There is a treatment for it. If when we prune, the next time we prune, we'll take a sample and I'll have Ben Staples send it to a lab, or he knows how to visually do it actually, and see if it's the borer.
Yeah.
I would prefer to, where it's such a sentinel tree in that area, largest tree probably on the street. I'd like to see it for another year if I could, and see how it does in the spring.
Would you prune it now or in the spring?
It's gonna drop. We really can't tell exactly. Drought could be affecting that. They're the last tree to leaf out and the first tree to lose their leaves by nature of the tree. So my feeling would be to try to keep it until spring and wait and see. If we get a nice leafing out, then we'll know it's not sick. If it doesn't leaf out right and it's very weak, then we'll know.
Okay, and we'll revisit then.
We'll revisit the site. We'll go on the end of the next summer or the fall. For what we do.
So no pruning at this time.
I'll look at it again. If I see anything that's really dangerous, there's a lot of little small twiggy stuff. Nothing big is going to come down. That's the price to pay when you have, trees that do naturally drop small branches, things like that. But I'll look at it again And if I see any sign of wholesale dropping of branches, in other words, that tells me they're stone dead at the top of the tree, I'll watch it very closely.
Okay. Name and address, please.
Richard Shapiro, 41 Pleasant Street. There are branches coming down every storm. I clean my yard every storm. There's a huge hole in the front of that tree. If you go to the bark, you can pull it all off, all of it off. Fred will attest to that. It just comes off. I live there. It's a huge tree. It would destroy my house. It also falls the other way. The town in that area would be without the Wi-Fi, electricity, etc., because it'll fall right on the wires. I think it's a hazard. I think it should be removed.
I just wanted to add
Name
to
and
that.
address, please.
Yes, Fred Johnson, 39 Pleasant Street. And you're not seeing the branches because I'm out there picking up those branches after storms. So that's why you're not seeing branches in the street and stuff.
We live there.
We live there, so we pick up from that tree. So that's why
It's
you're not seeing.
constant. It's constant.
It's constant.
They notoriously are a dirty tree by nature. They will drop small branches from time to time. It's part of it.
There's kids walking to school every day there.
Right.
Also, what I like, if you're not going to remove it, test it now. Don't wait a year. Please come and test it now.
When we prune, we could go up and take a look at it up the top of the tree. I can have,
Let's not wait a year. Let's do it
Excuse me,
now.
let him finish.
Sorry.
Don't
maybe
interrupt.
again one more time, maybe before.
And assess its health at
Yeah,
the same time.
assess its health at the same time. I'll even go up in the bucket with it. But it's not gonna fall, the tree, that I can assure you. The tree will, they do constantly drop branches. We have trees all over
Just a
town.
minute, please. Excuse me, Mr. Shapiro,
Very
please don't
strong.
interrupt when you talk.
trees. Very strong wood. They make baseball bats out of it.
Yes, they do. Okay,
Ash.
I'm sorry. Go ahead now, Mr.
Yeah,
Shapiro.
the hole facing my house is huge.
Mhm.
It's in there.
Look, I'll
Squirrels
go
living
ahead
in
and
it.
take a look at it. We'll push a rod, steel rod the size of it into that hole and see if it reaches the center of the tree.
Okay.
But I can assure you the tree's not gonna fall.
You can put that in writing right now.
So.
And your name again, please.
Fred Johnson, 39
Massachusetts statute is written.
So that testing will be taken now, not a year from now.
Right.
No, within a month.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, well,
And also tested for that war.
And the
Right.
reason that we have to not interrupt and repeat names is because we have to, for minutes, we have to have them accurate and know who's speaking. And the person who's doing the minutes, from the recording, it's difficult if we are talking over and not stating who we are. So that's why. Okay, thank you. I appreciate your help there. Okay, why don't we put a hold on this one until you can go take a look and assess the tree, and then we can come back to this one.
what we'll do, Mr. Shapiro, we'll cut a large branch up at the top. We'll take back the bark on it. We'll look at it. If we see emerald ash borer, we'll know that that's a serious situation. Also, what we will do is at that cavity, and we'll go in there and he'll push in and see if that's extensive. You know, I would almost say for sure, don't be concerned about the whole tree falling. It will continue to die back if it has the emerald ash borer. And it probably, if it does have it at this time, it will be stone dead by next fall. But then give us a chance to evaluate it a little more thoroughly, you know. At the top.
Send you a notice when you're gonna be doing the testing.
We'll try to tell you, you don't need to be there for what we're gonna do. We're professionals, they're professional arborists, they know what to do.
How do I get the results from the test?
Right,
DPW will get those in. They can pull
Send me an
it.
email or something?
Greg will take care of it.
Okay,
Email also?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Manasian, we're not gonna do comment on this one right now. Yeah, and
What does it mean to put a hold?
It means we're not going to vote to remove or not remove it at this time. Tom will
Does
assess.
that mean that we keep the tree hearing open?
So do you want to do that? So otherwise you'd have to rewarn. So if you want to say, continue this until your first meeting in November.
Why don't we do that? Continue this one
That'll give you
until,
that'll give you
That's
enough
good,
time.
Greg. Yeah, that'll be fine.
okay,
yeah.
so continue to first meeting in November, which is let's see. That would be November 7th. Okay,
I still be getting notice regarding the examination of the tree prior to the meeting.
Right.
yeah, well, you'll get notified of that and then you'll be notified of the results as well. We have your email
Yeah. Well, I got an email from the town.
and you, good, all right. So we will, I need a motion to continue the 24-inch American ash at 41 Pleasant Street to November 7th select board meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
moved by Ann Harrison, seconded John Round, roll call vote, Ann,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
John,
yes.
says yes. Okay, so we will come back to this. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
The next one we have is 16 Highwood Road, the 20-inch ash.
That's pretty obvious, isn't it? to all of you?
Yeah,
Same thing as I've said about every ash, pretty much.
pretty barren.
Very sad. Any comments from the board, Ann? No. Brian?
No.
Kathy? John?
No,
Anyone from that neighborhood want to make a comment?
Yes.
Okay, may I have a motion to remove the tree at the 20-inch ash at 16 Highwood Road?
So moved.
second,
Okay, moved by Ann Harrison, seconded by John Round. Roll call vote, Ann?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
John?
yes.
And Becky says yes, it's unanimous. Now we come to the 34-inch red oak at 26 Old Essex Road. And this one's come before us before. So, Tom,
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful red oak. That's all I can say about it. It's quite healthy. Its location is tough for the homeowner. I can understand that. Branches dropping on the roof. He stated to me, I went and talked to him personally a couple times, if he could possibly save the tree. And his concern is it's in his sewer, the roots are in his sewer system, line coming in, and his utility lines come in underground. I mean, we have to take that for what it is. It's well beyond the town's jurisdiction as far as length, away from the roadway. He's going to have a lot of trees removed around the back of his house. I guess for safety reasons, he has a lot of big pines on a ledge out back. And this tree, he expressed his desire to me, and really, he was quite adamant about it. And he felt he had to take this tree down. The situation that presents to the house and the family, and the way he feels about the safety of the house with the tree. We have a lot of things that have legitimacy, and I understand myself. It's unfortunate, it's too bad it wasn't 10 feet closer to the road, and it's a beautiful, really has a beautiful shape.
it is it a heritage tree?
You know, that's the heritage definition is much larger. The National Arborist Association, much larger diameter for red oak trees. It's a nice, mature, healthy, but I don't believe the last time I tried to find my old pamphlet But somebody called me about it and I said, maybe you can go online. I tried, I'm not as proficient as a lot of people are online to see if it qualifies by Mass Arborists Association. And I believe for red oak, it's up in the 40-inch range.
Because I know that
For
we have
red
our,
oak, they're much faster growing than, where at white oak, it might be well within that heritage qualification, but I'm not actually sure on that, but that's all I can really say about that. I'm not certain.
Anne, thank you, Tom.
I thought our tree policy defined heritage tree as 30 inches at breast height, regardless of species.
And that, I'm just bringing this up just to remind myself. Is that, Greg, is that what you remember in terms of
I have to
heritage?
look it up. I don't recall the,
I think it's 34 for everything.
So, and this would fall under that
under our
as a
policy,
our
the
town
our
policy
specific
for a
policy.
heritage tree. And anything that is a heritage tree, regardless of location, falls under the,
I think for a clarification, you might check with Sandy Bodmer.
okay.
They
Mr.
were
Ring,
gonna
I
look
will
into it.
come to you. I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They were gonna look into that for us, and I do believe, yeah, so he's gonna, Peter was gonna get, he called me about it specifically.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Ring, I will be back to you. Sandy Bodmer Turner, please restate your address. And unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder, Becky. I'm Sandy Bodmer Turner of 89 School Street. The definition in the tree policy of a heritage tree has 32-inch diameter at breast height.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, there we are. I see. Yep. Or 100.45 inches in circumference. Okay, Mr. Ring, please state your full name and address, or name and address.
Patrick Ring, 26 Old Essex Road. And probably unlike a lot of the people on this Zoom conference, I've lived on this street for 67 years and have observed this tree all of that time, as my aunt owned this house previous to myself and my wife. The tree is a beautiful tree, and the last thing we really want to do is take it down. However, the tree is slowly but surely dying. It is dropping limbs on the house, on the driveway, and on the lawn adjacent to the house. The roots of the tree go underneath the foundation and through the foundation and out the other side of the house. I'm very concerned about the possible damage to the sewer line, which runs through where the roots go into the house. So if I thought we could save the tree, we would do that. But it's slowly but surely continually dying in the crown and starting to drop more limbs as time goes on. With the weather in New England, the high winds come directly down Old Essex Road from the northwest, and that's the direction the tree is leaning towards the house. And it's a rather precipitous lean that it's got towards the house, and we're worried about what could happen. Now that the ground is dried out and the tree, the roots are probably suffering from that.
There's a lot of valid points. That's all I really can say.
I have a
hate
question.
to see the tree go, but I understand his concerns.
Okay. But before I come to, thank you, Mr. Ring, and if you could go ahead and lower your hand, that'd be great. Thank you. Board comments, Kathy?
Yes, I had a question. Is there anything that can be done to treat the tree so that it stunts its growth without damaging it?
Unfortunately, not that I'm aware of.
I know just on our property, we are treating some trees that are, we love them and want to keep them, but we don't want them to get any bigger. And so they're undergoing a program to
they're
That's a
gonna run
different type
their
of tree, yeah.
course, you know, of life. I mean, that's a tree that can conceivably live 300 or 400 years under the right conditions. And then it can also be defoliated by worms. And that's what we're seeing with the red oaks all along the highway. They're stressed because of the salt on the state highways there, but it's just a sad situation. I sympathize with Mr. I understand his concerns. Like I say, I wish it was 10 feet closer to the road, then we could do some pruning on the side near his house and things, if it were a town tree.
Well, the problem,
It's really a difficult situation there that he has, and a difficult position for me to see, to lose a tree like that, but
well,
the tree was a little small tree and kept probably when that house was built. It's now it's fully mature and
and the problem. Additional
an
problem
issue,
with the
yeah,
roots
an
is
issue, yeah.
the foundation. And that's, and I know you can cut some roots, right, and not
Yeah,
affect the health of a tree.
yeah.
Depending on the
You wouldn't
root.
want to do anything to the roots there on that tree. You only, yeah, you really thin it, prune it, but it's gonna reach its life expectancy and
Mhm.
start to decline, and it's,
Okay, Anne,
What is our responsibility for heritage trees? Tom is suggesting that we can't touch, we can't offer to prune on our nickel because it's not in the street easement.
Basically, you have veto power over a heritage tree in terms of removal or not. That's really,
but we can't offer
you
pruning on a heritage tree over which we have.
you could, that's, I'm just a little hesitant for that precedent, but
Yeah, I know, I mean, but
I don't, we have a sense of how many heritage trees in town we have.
Worse than the one I just ate.
I don't really right now, I'd have to think about it. But, you know, like
There's plenty of a sense of magnitude.
well, yeah.
a lot were taken down, you know, nice trees
Mhm.
before we had the policy. I feel we're doing a good job, you know, as best as we can, but there are unique situations that are gonna arise with this. That's why I think they set the standard so high on certain species of tree because of their age.
Right.
How long do they last, this and that? It's not really, you know, it's not really good to have one size for all species of trees because they vary so much in the rate of growth, their longevity. Yes,
Mhm.
red oak is considered a El Primo, a prime tree as far as having it on your property in the right situation, in the right location. Beautiful, natural, New England shade tree.
Did you have a
Question, yeah,
comment?
does, so we know that this is a heritage tree? This
Yeah.
meets the
It
requirements.
does-
By our,
Fits our
our
definition,
policy, it's a heritage tree.
because it's over 32.
It is over 32. I mean, I'm looking at the picture, it looks around there, but
It's stated here as a 34.
oh, okay.
And
Just as a point of information, there are 3 heritage trees on my lot. So there are a lot,
and I have way more than that on mine. so,
I dare say.
Yeah.
So we had talked, this is slightly off topic, but we had talked about doing a survey so that
Mhm.
people know what they have. And is there any progress on that?
I'm not aware. I'd have to-
Is it something that we might ask the Friends of Trees?
I thought that's who was going to be doing it.
We had talked about that. I'm not up on.
Okay, I'm going to, is there any other board comment? I just want to, okay, I'm going to recognize Mr. Ring and then Mr. Mendenhall. All right, Mr. Ring, and your address again, please.
Yes, Patrick Ring, 26 Old Essex Road. I just want to add to everybody that I am a contributor to the Friends of the Manchester Trees. And the other issue is we have town trees also on our property. And I would note that one of them that's very healthy dropped a sizable limb yesterday onto the street, almost hitting an automobile that was properly parked. And the oak that I'm talking about is in far worse shape and has way more limbs that are ready to come down. I hope that people can appreciate the concern we have about the issue of limbs falling on the house. We already had a limb from a pine tree fall on our skylight. It caused us about $10,000 of damage to the house that we had to have repaired.
Thank you, Mr. Ring. Peter?
Thank you. Tom, I have a question for Tom. Right now we have a one size fits all with a 32-inch diameter in terms of identifying as a heritage tree. Whether it be the Massachusetts Arborists or the national group,
Peter, I'm not, we're gonna stick with directly
Okay.
what pertains to the tree hearing right now, okay?
Fine. Yeah,
But thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I hate to see that tree come down. I really do, but if you have a tree going into your foundation, that's an issue. And when there's worry about the sewer lines and everything else, I think that is pretty significant. Any more comment from the board?
Just a question. So, yeah, I agree with you, Becky. The roots disturbing foundation can be it can be a health hazard if you start messing around with the foundation, water damage, power, sewer lines. When you say roots are disturbing the foundation, what does that mean? I mean, is it a cinder block foundation and the roots are breaking through the mortar, or is it trying to understand what disturbing the foundation means?
Mr.
Yes,
Ring has
Becky.
his hand up.
Yes,
Yes.
Becky, in answer to your question, the roots are coming through. It is a cinder block foundation. And I'd welcome anybody to come back and go down in the crawl space with me to observe it.
Thank you. That answered my question.
Thank you. Any more comments, questions? Thank you. Any board member would like to make a motion? By the way,
I move to remove the 34-inch red oak at 26 Old Essex Road.
and
Permit the removal as a friendly amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, permit the removal. Yes. Thank you.
Second.
okay, motion made by Kathy Bellata, friendly amendment by Ann Harrison, seconded by John Round. Roll call vote. Ann?
Yes,
Brian?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I may shed tears on this one, yes. Okay. Because I hug trees, yes, anyway, but I'm. All right, thank you, everybody, and that concludes the tree hearing.
it has to be continued.
Oh,
We already made that motion,
So you continued that one.
we already continued it.
Okay, but we can't close it. can we?
Oh, no, I just mean for tonight.
He was as bland as he could be.
Right, so the hearing
Yeah,
remains open for that one tree.
For the one tree.
some yes, some no. He didn't want to
Mr.
let
Ring,
Hudson
could you mute,
cut
please?
the tree down.
Thank you. Okay, so we will
Adjourn. What does it do when we have a hearing that we haven't finished?
You're adjourning until
Okay.
November.
adjourning until November 7th, where we are continuing the discussion on the 24-inch American ash at 41 Pleasant Street for the tree warden and DPW to assess and report to share information with the homeowner. Okay, we're not closing it. Are we just exiting this to go into executive session?
Look, so you're closing the public portion of your meeting.
We adjourn the hearing, which we probably should vote for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We adjourn the hearing to November 7th.
Right, okay, I'm
At
going to
6:30.
adjourn the public hearing for the public tree hearing until November 7th, when we will finish the discussion on the 24-inch American ash, 41 Pleasant Street, not to return to open meeting for the,
Then we close the meeting and we opened a meeting, we started a hearing, we
But I can't-
adjourned the hearing, close public session.
You move into executive session.
right, so we're not actually closing. So we would move to executive session per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, to conduct strategy with respect to contract negotiations with clerical union if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and the chair so declares not to return to open meeting.
Second.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.
Coordinate,
Um,
DPW one's checking that and maybe the tree up opposite at the same time. They're opposite, so.
Yes, to the same time. Yep.
Thank you, Tom.
Very much.
Thank you.
That certainly is, and my LLB, my
Oh,
blood.
don't forget that.
And happy birthday.
Thank you.
And happy birthday.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you so much.
Happy birthday.
Good evening.
Okay,
And good health to you all.
you as well. A motion made by Becky Jiggs, seconded by Ann Harrison. Roll call vote. Ann Harrison, Brian, Kathy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Becky says yes. Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you for attending. Looks they're all gone.
What's left, yeah.
So
You can end this.
this.